All right, so I'm exploring this idea. People like to say the devil's in the details. I haven't really seen that, to be honest with you, in my life. The devil is not in the details. I know that people say that as like you know, you can get screwed up if you don't pay attention. I get what they mean. I understand, but the devil is not in the details. The devil really makes himself known quite frequently, like all the time. The devil's like always letting you know that he's involved. That dude, he need the credit. The devil is a credit taker. I'm trying to make it so it's not moving so much, but I got one of those cars, and it's, the speed is crazy. We're driving down the highway and all that, but the devil is not in the details. The devil is in the gross, drawn out lines. The devil is very obvious to see. If you don't want to see the devil, now that's a different story. That might be your fault. But I think the devil is very much so. There you go. Let's do that. There you go. A little less bumpy, right? No? Okay, maybe not. Anyway, the devil is very much so not in the details. Not in the details. God is in the details. God is in the details because God will point you in certain directions, in certain ways that you didn't actually think were real pathways, real options. Hold on, this ain't working either, bro. Oh, the joys of technology. God will point you in many different directions in many different ways that you did not expect. And you only realize that it's God because you can pay attention to the details. God doesn't really care to be seen. God doesn't need the credit. God doesn't need the credit. He created all of this. So what does he need the credit for? For the creation to come back and go, oh, I know it was you. It's like, well, yeah, obviously. The credit comes in from the creation just going, oh, thank you, giving that little acknowledgement. God likes that, but God don't need it. So the details in your life, there's just so many times, I don't even know if people realize this, but there's so many times in your life where you will be like narrowly hit by a car, but because God put something in your path or put something in your way, oh, hey, how's it going? God said, oh, nope. The universe, whatever you want to call it, your phone rang at that moment, right before you're about to step out into traffic. And car whizzed by. That's a detail. That's a detail that God has put in there. Why the devil wouldn't do that for you? The devil is not in the details. The devil is in the gross, big, drawn out lines, things that are very easy to see. Here's $1 million. That's what the devil gonna go. That was all me. I gave you that. God doesn't function like that. God doesn't operate like that. Hello. For those just joining in and popping in. God functions on the understanding that you are made in his image. You're moving throughout life in a certain way. You are moving throughout life as an expression of him, as a tiny version and expression of him. And in doing so, no credit needs to be taken. No credit needs to be understood. You are already a part of God's design. So he doesn't need to take credit for it. He doesn't need to, but the blessings that come into your life, the things that happen for you, to you, with you, that start to add up into bigger and better things, usually come in the smallest packages and the smallest details. Usually the smallest ideas are things that have been planted by God, by the divine universe's will, by the divine will of the Creator, to put you on a path, put you on a pathway that will accelerate your life in a beautiful, beautiful manner. A lot of times, people believe that their destiny needs to be written in the stars. But in reality, your destiny sometimes can be written on a grain of rice. It can be written on some of the smallest and seemingly most insignificant parts of who you are and what you do. Your life is being determined by the smallest eddies and pools of energy that are circling and floating around you, moving all throughout the space, influencing all the different things that you do. You heard about the butterfly effect. That is how life tends to work. If that is the case and we are subtly moved, motivated by the subtle energies of life, moved by the subtle occurrences. Hello. Everybody, please follow, because I'm going live here. I finally got my phone unlocked to go live. So if you like what I'm saying, then just, subscribe. If not, then tell me to go to hell. I'm not going to hell though. I made Jesus walk, so I'm never going to hell. I didn't personally make Jesus walk. I didn't do that. Tell me to stop talking. Yeah. That's great. So anyway, God puts the little messages in your life. God puts the little things in your life. The little things. Okay, so I was talking about preparation earlier on my other live, and how people are waiting for the second coming of Jesus and for the rapture and all this other stuff, or whatever. You're preparing for a test, or you're preparing for an exam, or you're preparing for some kind of thing, an interview in your life. And we are taught in our society that preparation should make us nervous. Preparation should put us in a state of anxiety. Preparation should put us in a state of repose, where we start to believe that if we're not absolutely perfect, things aren't going to work out for us. See, this used to be so much more smooth when I was on the highway, but I'm going to have to figure out a way to do this cell phone holder where it's not so jagged. But in preparation, the reality is this. Preparation should be a state that you're always in. As I was just saying, we have all types of energies and movement happening all around us. The butterfly effect is basically the idea and the concept that a butterfly's wings flap, and whatever the resonance from the butterfly's wings spread out, go out, create another impact that can cause a tsunami on the other side of the world. Now, do I believe that? Probably not. No. But what I'm saying is the concept is still valid, where things happen and there's cause and effect in our world. And those causes and those effects and those things have an impact on all of us. And so preparation is more so about being constantly living in a state of repose, constantly living in a state of reception, constantly living in a state of preparedness, but without the anxiety, without the expectation. The anxiety comes in where you start to believe that, oh, I'm waiting for this thing, and therefore I create an expectation around this thing. And because I've created an expectation around this thing, whatever my belief systems and my definitions about this thing are, should challenge or change the way in which I perceive that thing happening to me. So for example, if you know you're about to get a brand new car and somebody's going to give it to you, your ideas, your definitions, and your belief systems about brand new cars, let's just say it's a Porsche, you're going to be put into a certain state of into an emotional state where you're preparing for that. And that emotional state can create a lot of anxiety, nervous energy. Doesn't mean it's bad, but it's creating a lot of energy that may not be what you want. So as soon as you get behind the wheel of that car, you're so excited, you're so nervous that you hit the gas, you hit the brake, you hit the gas, you hit the clutch, you put it in a gear, and then you jerk off, and let's say you crash. You crash as soon as you get the car. That can happen when your preparedness creates a state of anxiety. When your preparedness creates a state of expectation for something that is, the expectation is out of alignment with the balance, right? And so that's what I'm saying. You have to have a kind of warrior's attitude. If you've ever heard the saying, you know, better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Yeah, it's much better to be able to learn how to do something that is not life-threatening if you are capable of dealing with life-threatening situations, rather than the other way around, rather than the inverse, rather than trying to learn how to handle yourself in life-threatening situations, and that's not your expertise when you're in a life-threatening situation. So it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. That's my whole point. And being a warrior in a garden means that you're consistently ready to be attacked, have your life threatened, and be in danger. However, you're in a garden. You're in a peaceful environment. You're creating life. You're not taking life. And so it's so much better to be in that state where we live good lives, but we're ready for the worst. That's the most perfect state to be in. It's terrible to be completely unprepared. You're in a mall, and all of a sudden people start going off and banging out and sending bullets everywhere, and you don't know what to do because you never even thought about that kind of situation. You've never expected that kind of situation. You never anticipated that type of situation. But you also don't want to be the kind of crazy nut who thinks that stuff like that's going to pop off all the time. Why? Because that kind of mindset puts you either in a state where you're constantly stressed, or it draws those kinds of situations to you where you're constantly in those kinds of situations. We all know people from the hood, from lesser, economic status, from people from violent neighborhoods all over the world. You put them in a nice area and they're still looking over their shoulder. They're still looking for the bad guys. They're still looking for their enemies, for their ops. They're still looking for that stuff. Why? Not because of preparedness. That's not preparedness. That's trauma and that's anxiety. Those are two totally different things. Trauma and anxiety are totally different from preparedness. And so you want to be in a state of preparedness. God is in the details. And so if you're living a life, and I've had to learn this has been a hard thing for me to learn. If you're living a life where your basic needs are met, you're not really being put through the ringer with drama, you're not really being, effed with, maybe you got a problem with this person at work or that person over there, or maybe your friend's going through it or your girlfriend, but mostly overall, 85% of your life is good. Then your life is good. We tend to pay attention to the details of things that suck, that make our lives inconvenient. And I'm working on this myself, working on appreciating the details that make my life good and not the details that make my life inconvenient. Because that's all those things are, is just inconveniences in life. It's not the end of the world. It's not the worst thing ever. It's not, retribution. It is simply just the state of affairs as they are currently. And so I am prepared at any given moment for life on a dime. to become better and better and better. But we got to look out for those messages. We've got to be aware of them. We've got to be ready for them. And that's my message. God is in the details.